So, all right, no brain freeze. Ready? The first person done, make sure you put both hands in the air and let me know. Mark, get set, go. Can they do it? Who is going to get done? I don't know. Keegan down at the end is looking pretty good here. I don't know. Ella's like, I got this. I need milk at home. James is like, don't bother me. I'm very busy right now. Come on, girls. Oh, Keegan, he did it. You got a brain freeze, Keegan? You got to swallow it, man. Swallow it. All right, Kelly, you getting our prize? Yeah. Keegan, that was awesome. Do you ever do a like hot dog eating contest or anything? Yeah. He knew how to. That was awesome. I think it's the height. Ella, you got 2 scoops to go, man. What do we all have here? There is no competition here. None at all. Good heavens. So, Keegan, you win a gallon of whole milk. Yes. Yes, it is World Milk Day. So here we go. A gallon of milk. There you go, Keegan. Thank you. Good job. Is that better than winning at fair? No. That's close. Ice cream and milk. That's awesome.
Didn't you talk to Moville earlier today?
I did.
Yeah.
So they just talked about how they just really believed in our passion and what we're doing, and they like to share the same passion and share the miracle of milk and dairy foods. So that's why they wanted to come out here. Things happen at their farm, because that's what happens with farms. Things get busy. You put your cows first, right? Or your crops first. You got to go take care of them. So Moville was not able to make it the second time, but we are so grateful to them for donating all this ice cream. Can't wait to have my own scoop. So this is pretty good. So I was hoping that maybe Annie could talk about our core values a little bit. What do you think, Annie?
Okay.
I'm going to sit down next to Ella here. Stuff your face over a bowl of ice cream.
You know, I should go and get the posters that we made up.
We have one in the store, don't we?
Kelly, do you mind? Do you have one? Yes, we do. Easily accessible, because yeah, once again, we've been preparing for this for a whole 5 days.
5 days. I give us credit.
We are really excited to have you guys here. Really, it's been a ton of fun. If you're just joining in and don't know what's going on, we've been celebrating since midnight, and we are going to go all the way till 11:59. So I'm feeling a little tired right now, but since we talk about core values, that's one of the things that I actually would love to talk about. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So several years ago, our family was at kind of a crossroads, and we knew that there was some people in my generation that were ready to or interested in coming back to the farm. And so the senior generation, like my dad and my uncles, were like, okay, how are we going to make this work? So we knew we needed to grow the business if we wanted more family members to be involved. And we kind of sat down and we're like, how are we going to do this? And we actually had somebody advise us and tell us, you know, you need to get organized. You need to kind of learn about where you've been so that you know what you need to do to move forward. So we had somebody from our family come in and kind of walk us through this process. And he said, pretend you're on a mission to Mars. You can bring anybody with you in the whole history of Swiss Lane Farms. I want you to tell me who that person would be and why you would bring them. So for about 10 hours, we got to sit and listen to just all of the rich history that had been the history of our farm. And out of that exercise came these 6 core values. And all of them have a person and a story that go along with them. And that was in 2010, right before we did the expansion at the robot dairy. So when we did the robot dairy, we said, okay, does this even fit our core values? So I'll show you the core values that the robot dairy hit. So robot dairy means the cows are getting milked by robotic milkers. And so it was kind of like forward thinking. And so we looked at light years ahead. Check. We've got robots milking the cows, so that fits there. Focused on the cows. It is You probably don't even.
They're magical. They're
I
magical
know.
sounds for these.
So focused on the cows. It just kind of lets the cow be a cow and just kind of express her natural behaviors. And so when we go over to the robot dairy later, we will talk about that. And then also it talks about turning a nickel into a dime, just investing in technology and being more automated. So it checked those three things. And so we said, okay, we're going to go ahead and invest that. And that was great for that decision. That was a pretty big decision. And once we decided to move forward, we just, all hands on deck, put our heads down and didn't really think very much about the core values until we kind of made it to the next level. We had a lot more employees now that we had the robot dairy helping us and working alongside of us. And we thought, okay, so I transferred into the HR role at that point, and I was like, okay, I don't know how to do HR. What does this mean? And I started reading through, and they're like, well, you have to do performance evaluation. So I don't know how to make a performance evaluation. What am I going to evaluate people on? I don't even know where to start with that. And I was like, oh, core values is probably what we should evaluate people on. So I went and dusted off this binder and decided that we would make our performance evaluations for all of our team based off of these core values. So why that is important, these core values kind of stemmed mostly from family members, but now it's not just our family here. We have all these other people who are now part of our family and helping and coming alongside of us and helping us get to that next 95 years. So we got to make sure everybody's kind of thinking the same way and on the same page and all moving in the same direction on our mission to Mars, right? We can't just expect people to understand that we're going to Mars if we don't even tell them how to get there, right? So this is kind of our roadmap. I really like this because if you think about owning a business or just managing a business, it's that's a pretty heavy burden. I don't know how to do that. And so I just felt if we can focus on these things, it's kind of they've given us a roadmap on how to do this. So it's kind of nice. And the other thing that I really like about this is I'm not very good at these things. So I love that we have a team that is very diverse and that can kind of complement us where we are weak. So I think that's really cool. So how long do we have to talk about these? Because I could probably talk about it for an hour.
I don't know what time is it.
Okay, it wouldn't be an hour, but 4:16.
Oh, you got 5 minutes. No, that's all right.
Okay, so the God-honoring conduct, what we're looking for there is we just want people to have a respect for others and showing them that they're and being trustworthy. So those are some of the good things there. How that is lived out in a day-to-day thing is also try to give people that time away from the farm and have that work-life balance too, so they can have time for worship, and it's not just so a day set aside for family and for personal and mental health too. So that's God-honoring conduct. So we can go and go to church on Sundays, kind of the thing there. Light years ahead, that's just kind of embracing change and always kind of thinking about what's next, not just thinking about what you got to do today. But I've talked to you guys about before, we're not just trying to do the things every day. We're thinking about 95 years. So our farm has been here for 105 years. Well, that's great, but what are we going to do so we can be here for 200 years? So that's kind of the light years ahead. Focused on the cows. We've been talking about this all day. So focused on the cows, just making sure that every decision that we make is just how can we take better care of the cows? And like I said, if we take care of them, they're going to take care of us. So it's just one of the big, and where that came from is my Uncle Ernie. He was what you call a cow guy. And him and my dad would go out and they would do cow judging, and they would be oh, her back is so nice and she's got really high production and we gotta, so it was just pretty cool how just invested they were in the cows. And so that has carried down through the generations. Turning a nickel into a dime, my grandpa would say about his brother that he would set down a nickel and then he'd turn it over and there'd be a quarter there. So he said he just always was really wise in his investments making sure that he wasn't just spending money everywhere. The thing with this is sometimes the turning a nickel into a dime, the focus on the cows and light years ahead, can sometimes kind of contradict each other. And so we've always got to try to balance that. Like, this might be a really good investment, but is it the best for the cows? Or this might be really good for the cows, but can we afford it? You know, does that make sense? Because you've got to have that sustainability piece. Is, you know, you do have to make good financial decisions too. You can't just do, you know, I don't know, you could do some pretty frivolous things, right? I mean, we all could. So make hay while the sun shines. This one just means being opportunistic and not giving up. There's a story about my grandpa and his brother-in-law. They were sharing this, I'm going to get it wrong. It's like a hay, I'm going to call it like a hay vine or something, but that's probably not right. But they had to go make hay literally on a Saturday night, and they wanted to get all of the hay in the field before Sunday. And so they're out in the field, and all of a sudden the piece of equipment breaks. And so there was no equipment dealers open. They had to bring or haul that piece of equipment all the way back from the field, and then they had to use weld and grind and make a new gear for the piece of equipment out of weld. Like, I can't even imagine, you know, I don't even know how to like sew a button, and they're here like making a whole new gear out of weld. So they just wouldn't give up. They fixed that thing, took it back to the field, and finished the hay by 11 o'clock, and then had Sunday off, and then had good hay for the cows. So they didn't give up. That's kind of what we were talking about with our people. Just, you know, we got to keep thinking of different ways to get the job done, because when the conditions are right, we got to go. You guys have probably heard the trucks driving back and forth. We're making hay while the sun is shining. We know it's World Milk Day. Everybody wants to stop and eat ice cream and do our milk toast, and but we've got to make the hay while the sun shines. So that's what these guys are doing. That's what those trucks are bringing the hay in, so the cows can have really good, high quality forage, like you'll hear about if you go to the interview with Marty during the 10 o'clock hour. Last one is becoming productive people. This one is just your attitude and making sure that you are just you're just always trying to better yourself, and trying to also just make sure you get the job done, really high quality work too. What also goes into that is just like continuing education, and then we even want to have that whole mental health, like that work-life balance, and just making sure you're taking care of. Actually, this one came from someone who wasn't even a part of the family. A story for attitude came from one of the employees who worked here in the late 90s, and they talked about him, how he would just step out of his car and he'd already have a bead of sweat going down his face, and he'd be ready to get to work with a big smile on his face, and at the end of the day he'd be sweaty and hot after like digging a trench, and just be, well, that was fun, good job guys, and just always had this positive attitude. And so it's just pretty cool how even somebody who wasn't historically you think about the family farm, but this guy wasn't even part of our family, but had that big of an impact that 15 years later he makes it into our core values talk. So pretty cool. I think there are so many of our employees now who I can just see them like check, and so that's really cool. Anyway, that's the core values. That's kind of what we focus on every day, and strive to do our best. And we talk about sustainability and continuous improvement, and I feel like if we kind of make these things priority, we'll get it done. 95 years left to go to get to 200.
Thanks, Annie.